Hi everyone, and welcome to Not Your Tamil Aunty. Today I really wanted to go into the kind of premise behind Not Your Tamil Aunty. I have been speaking to people about obviously coming on the podcast, and they want to know what it's about. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of started it on a whim, and as I kind of sat there and I kind of thought about it, I kind of thought, where did Not Your Tamil Aunty come from? And I think for me, so I kind of find myself in the middle of two generations, right? So my parents are born and bred in Jaffna. I was born in Germany and I came to England when I was 3. And as you can imagine, I spent a lot of time with my parents growing up. I spent a lot of time with the elders in my family, as it were, growing up. So I spent a lot of time with the older generation. So in a lot of ways, I was one of them. I was the oldest out of all my cousins here. So I was the one that people went to for paperwork and for translations and for school decisions and things like that. So then when it came to like their kind of views, I didn't necessarily agree with them, but I knew them and I understood them. But at the same time, I was brought up here, kind of wanted to go out with my friends. I knew why my mother wouldn't let me go out with my friends. And I kind of, rebelled and, very quickly kind of got the label, as it were, of a troublemaker, a naughty child, a naughty girl. The girl that other parents kind of used as a, you don't want to turn out like Saja type situation. Obviously, this was back, I'm 41, I'm 42 this year. Jeez. But obviously this is back, a good few years ago. So like before the internet and before, other people were potentially showing their more rebellious sides. So in my little community of like my family and, my family's friends, etc., I was potentially not the most rebellious, but the one that most people kind of knew about and spoke about. I was that. I was the one, the daughters were told, you do not want to turn out like her. So if you carry on like this, then you're going to end up like Saja. So that's who I was. Looking back on it now, I really wasn't, I really wasn't doing any of those things that potentially could have got me into any kind of like huge ass trouble. Back then it was like, like just mind boggling. The expectations that were on us. Obviously, I got married at 19, I got pregnant at 20, I had my child when I was 21. Right off the bat, I think before I even got pregnant, I always knew that I wasn't going to raise my children, child children, in the way that I was raised. I was going to pretty much do the opposite. I'm very grateful to all the love and hard work that my parents put into me. But I also saw a lot of struggle in terms of financially, because obviously that was what they could do at the time. We didn't have access to childminders or to family support or things like that. And so it was very much along the lines of, I think I've mentioned before, I've spent nights in petrol station floors whilst my parents did the night shift. I have spent many a day in the laundromat where my mum used to work. In terms of a childhood, I didn't really have one. So I think when it comes to my kids, it was always very much, they need to be children as long as possible. And I also tried to keep them away from a lot of the Tamil society because I didn't want their judgment on me or on them. I wasn't going to be the mum that was going to sit with a group of women and talk to you about the 11 plus. I didn't care. Not that I didn't care about my kids' education, but I was the mum that asked her children if they wanted to do the 11 plus, and one said no and one said yes. I took it from them. So I just wasn't that person. I wasn't the person that kind of lived through her kids. Like, my kids mean the absolute world to me, and they know they do, and they know they come first, but they also know that mum also has to have a life, because sooner or later they will grow up and have their own lives, as is now, and mum has to have a life as well. So kind of being stuck in the middle of those kind of generations was difficult for me because there's a few of us like this. I'm not the only one, and potentially other people have dealt with it better than I have, or I feel like a lot of us deal with it in the same way that I used to, of, when you're hanging out with the elders, then, you listen to the elders and you kind of go, yes, we understand. And then when you're hanging out with the kids, we're like, no, you know what they're like. And you do that same appeasing kind of situation that we kind of grew up with. And now actually is at a point where if I find out that someone has almost tried to make my kids feel bad, I will turn around and say to my children, they are not allowed to put that emotional guilt on you. They have to, you do not have to take that burden on yourself, because actually, no one is allowed to make you feel a certain way. No one is allowed to use family or friendship or blood as a reason for you to have to do something. And I know it was, it's ingrained in our culture of, well, this is your family, or this is someone that your dad used to know, like way back when. And so therefore we are meant to be able to accept that and give them the love and understanding and respect that apparently they deserve, because they are related to us or because they knew us when we were little. And actually that's not the case. And I have tried to ingrain it into my children as much as possible. Yes, respect is a huge thing, but it doesn't mean that we have to blindly respect someone just because we have been taught to, or just because they are there in our lives, or because they've grown up with our parents, or because they've changed our nappies when we were younger. I think very much nowadays with my kids especially, I kind of went down the track of, if someone disrespects you, then you have the authority to turn around and say, no, that is not on. I am not going to accept that, regardless of whether it's me, their dad, family members, their friends, anyone. And so the number of times I have apologised to my kids when I've turned around and they have said, but Mum, you said this. And then I've kind of gone, oh, but I didn't, and I didn't mean to say it in that way, or I did mean to say it in that way. And I have totally taken on board what they have said, and then apologised for me saying that. Because regardless of who they are, or what relationship we have with them, they are individuals. And I will always stand by the fact that our kids have never asked to be born, and they've never asked to be born into our families, into our communities, into our cultures. And so it's not a God-given right for anyone to kind of put that kind of pressure onto them, or to those, to have those morals or, moral compass kind of thrown at them. So I think it's really important. I thought it was really important when they were growing up to kind of have that thing, to have them understand that, I think. And I think it was also what I really hated in our own community. And I found this a lot. So as you can see, I'm quite dark. I'm actually very fair at the moment because of this darn winter in England. I am not going to lie. Having grown up, I much prefer the summer Saja, because I feel like I look so much better with a tan. I feel like I look very pale in the, growing up, like summer Saja was frowned upon, because it was like, kadete vandatungal. Like, why have you got so dark? You shouldn't be out in the sun. And there were all these things that kind of went along with that kind of chatter. And then it was always, every time they saw me, it was, oh, you've lost weight, or you've gained weight, or, along those lines. And it was like, really and truly, if you don't have anything nice to say, please just don't say anything. Like, why do you have to say shit like that? And anyway, so I didn't feel the need for my kids to be kind of brought up with stuff like that. I was very mindful of the types of people my kids kind of had around them. I was very mindful of what people around my kids said. There were a couple of occasions when someone would say to my son, "You've gained weight," and I'd be like, "Hold up, you are in absolute no position to judge what my son looks like," and I shut it down very quickly. And so those were like a couple of the reasons why I kept my kids away from the Tamil society. And really and truly, I don't even think my kids know that they're Tamil. It was just the way of the world. I don't think I intentionally did that, but I think I took a step away because I wanted to protect them and I wanted to protect myself. And really, like, I was busy, right? Like, I was pretty much raising them on my own. You know, my ex was, he started a business when my oldest was 6 months old. So, you know, he wasn't running a business, then he was meeting up with friends and whatnot. So I pretty much, raised my kids by myself, which was fine for me. And so there was that thing of, I was busy. And I was also, when my other son was 2, I did my PGCE, I became a teacher, I went into special needs. I had a life. I was either teaching or I was with my kids. It was very much, I was either with other people's children or with my own children. And so, like, I didn't have the time to hang out with these Tamil parents and with other Tamil people and sit there gossiping about children or their families. I didn't care. Like, I was genuinely like, yeah, you do you, boo. So I think being stuck, though, between those two generations meant that obviously 2020 onwards, since Dad died, really, and then obviously 2023, when I made the decision to leave my 20-year marriage, and I kind of looked around for support from the elder community, from like the older generation, and I got none. Like, no one even looked back. Like, no one rang me, no one tried to find out how I was. I mean, like, I had a suicide attempt, guys. I was in hospital and not one elder actually rang me to find out how I was doing, if I was doing okay. Actually, no, I lie. One person did. They rang me to find out if I was okay, but no one else did. And that was very, very hurtful. And I don't know if it was a case of, this is Suja and Suja is not going to, Suja's not going to listen either way. And so therefore, it's not like we can talk to her and she will go back to her ex-husband. It's not like we can, knock any sense into her. And so therefore, we're just not going to, even bother like checking in to see if she's alive or dead. I know a lot of people struggled with the fact that obviously I ended up leaving the family home. Again, no one rang to ask me why I was leaving the family home rather than my ex. I think people made up their own decisions based on what my ex was going around telling people, which again was fine. Again, you do you, boo. But it was that thing of, there wasn't someone there from the older generation, from from the elders, as it were. I'm 41, so I'm not looking for from the older generation to kind of just sit there and support, right? And kind of say, look, Saja, like, we're here, we'll be there for you, we will just kind of love you regardless type thing. It just wasn't a thing. And I think that's really and truly where NYTA Tamil Aunty has come from, because where I started being a lot more open on TikTok and Insta and now YouTube, I have had so many of young people, my son's age, so 19, 20, up to 30 really, message me and kind of say, we can't have these conversations with our parents, we can't have these conversations with our elders. We are thankful that you are having these conversations, because actually you are opening up a whole new world to not only us, but you're opening up a conversation to our parents. You are opening up kind of these channels to other people, so that we are then able to have these conversations at home. Or people are just kind of messaging me and kind of going, can I talk to you? Because I don't have anyone else to talk to. And I'm 100% always here. I feel like my mission on earth is to serve, whether it's through NYTA, whether it's through my coaching, whether it's through NYTA Tamil Aunty, whether it's through just me being a doofus on screen and you guys relating and you guys kind of going, I know what she's about, and actually I just want to continue to, kind of follow her or just listen to her rant on, really. But I think my thing behind Not Your Tamil Auntie is for anyone to know, regardless of your age, that actually there are people out there that will listen, that are not going to throw shade and judgment at you, that actually, yes, sometimes the elders, the older generation might not understand you, but actually there are some people there that will understand, that will give you a helping hand as and when is needed. I am not able to provide you with, financial support or anything like that, but I'm always here with, an ear and the ability to kind of just sit there and kind of go, right, okay, talk you through your next steps almost. And I think it's really important that people have that, because it's when you feel that you don't have that your mind goes into a spiral and, depression hits and you just don't know how to kind of go on. You don't know how to deal with your next steps because you are stuck. So that's kind of what Not Your Tamil Auntie is about. It's about trailblazers. It's about knowing that actually, regardless of whatever it is that you're doing, you are not trouble. You are not causing mayhem. You are not, doing something that anyone would be ashamed of you for, because who are we to judge and feel shame for anyone? It is about knowing that you've got this. Like, seriously, I'm going to have some amazing people on this podcast. Like, the people I've got lined up for you guys, like, it's absolutely just like, I'm blown away by the talent that I have and by the talent that's out there in the Tamil community. And, I just sit there in awe at all of these people that are now kind of trailblazing and, breaking all of these glass ceilings and barriers and kind of going, I don't care. I don't care what you're going to say or you're going to say. I don't care what the Tamil community is saying. I don't care what every other Tom, Dick and Harry is saying. And just kind of go, right, this is who I am, and I am going to be proud of who I am, and I am going to just outrightly say that this is me and this is what I've got going for me. And being stuck between two generations might have been a hindrance for me kind of growing up, but now I embrace it. I kind of go, right, because I see the good and bad in both, and I know the good and bad in both, and I can help the good and bad in both. I can support you if you're older, I can support you if you're younger. My Tamil TikToks get a lot of reach from the older Tamil community, just because the fact is in Tamil. I speak a lot of nonsense in English on here. So guys, just continue to watch, because seriously, you are going to be blown away by the amount of absolute amazing rock stars that we have in our Tamil community. And I'm not talking about, just people that have gone on to do amazing in their careers, or people who are, budding entrepreneurs, or people who have self-started their own businesses and things like that. Obviously, we will have them too, but I am talking about people who have gone against the norm, who have just trailblazed in ways that we didn't even think was a thing. Seriously, I cannot wait to inspire you guys in 2025. I cannot wait to show you all that actually being labelled as trouble, as I have been labelled for 41 years of my life, has actually not been a detriment to me at all. I am very proud of the fact that I am trouble. And not only am I trouble, but I'm also not your Tamil auntie. And I cannot wait to see what else we can have in store and what other troubles that we can bring together. Thanks, guys.